And you're listening to the best in urban conservative talk live from the nation's capital. It's the exceptional one, Ken McClinton, and this is the Exceptional Conservative Show. We are not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation. First to the Republican and then the Democrat. We must do this because it is most timely and most provocative of all to the common socialist. The Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America and its flag. All right, I think Guts and Bourbon was a little too high there, and I definitely do not want to miss this particular opportunity to pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to its flag. Let us try that one more time. Take it from the top.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Honest Frank. I appreciate that greatly. And this is the start of America's great conservative urban talk show. One of the most influential conservative talk show. Let me scratch that. One of the most influential conservative. No, scratch that. One of the most influential shows in America. We'll go with that. Ladies and gentlemen, you know that my heart bleeds for the children of the United States of America. I know that I may not necessarily be the most successful movement leader, per se. I might not even be the best movement leader. I might not even be the chosen movement leader. But my heart bleeds for the children of the United States of America. I want to play for you a tape very quickly this evening. And it just goes to show you where we have devolved as a people in the United States of America. At one time, and I want to thank Mary, my bouncer, for being in the chat role. Dave Milner, better known as Agador, the unpleasant blind guy, for being here as well. And all of you for listening and tuning in. But this is a very sad and tragic day. I'm quite certain that many Americans would say, hey, people are just trying to break down our walls and come against the gates. They want to get into this country. But you got to ask yourself, why would you want to come to a country of people that do this to their children?
We have breaking developments in the search for an 11-year-old girl missing for more than a year. The disturbing update from police and families speaking exclusively with Action News, fearing the worst. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Serena Fazan. John Sabel is off tonight. Right now, Bradenton police are getting ready to hold a news conference saying that they have found the body of a child. Now, while they have not yet confirmed, it is indeed 11-year-old Janiyah Thomas, a child missing for more than a year. Her family is fearing the worst. Earlier tonight, ABC Action News reporter Kara Mashik spoke exclusively to the girl's grandmother, who is in agony, not knowing for sure if the child is alive or not.
Patricia Oliver is in shock after learning her granddaughter, 11-year-old Janiyah Thomas, has been missing since last August, and police only found out the little girl was gone 2 days ago. Oliver only found out through a friend who saw it on the news.
He was like, Pat, look at this little 11-year-old girl that's missing. And so I'm looking at his phone, and I'm looking at this little girl, and I'm like, oh my God, that's my grandbaby.
Oliver lost contact with Janiyah 5 years ago when her son, Janiyah's father, died. Now, like so many, she is desperate for answers about what happened and where Janiyah is.
If anybody knows where she is, would they please let the Bradenton Police Department know? so that they can bring her home.
Detectives say they're puzzled. Mother Kishana Thomas had been under investigation by Child Protective Services since last year after police say one of her children reported alleged physical abuse. That investigation resulted in an order to take away all 5 of her children. But when officers went to remove them from this apartment building, Janiyah was nowhere to be found. So Kishana was hauled into court where she refused to offer any information.
They tell me she's hiding something, whether she hurt this child or whether she obviously sold the child, whether she gave the child to somebody. She's done something with this child that she knows she should not have done, and then she will get charged for it once we can prove what it is she did.
Right now, police and Janiyah's family are still hoping for the best, but they say that the little girl has an intestinal medical condition, adding to their worry.
I just pray and hope that she's okay. But this is a cruel world that we're living in, so I cannot dismiss the possibility that something could have happened to her.
That was Kira Mashik reporting. Now, once again, police expected to hold a news conference momentarily, just in the next few minutes, saying that they have found the body of a child, not yet confirming if it is indeed the 11-year-old girl. This is a story, of course, we have followed all weekend long, and we will continue to update you on air and online. Find us on Facebook at ABC Action News, WFTS TV, and on our website at abcactionnews.com.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. ABC Action News out of Bradenton, following the story of Janiyah Thomas. And I might think that some of you all are so inquisitive as to ask, why would the exceptional one, why would the exceptional conservative care about Bradenton, New Jersey, and about an 11-year-old girl named Janiyah, when we could be toasting the world with great diction and consideration over the antics of presidential candidates Donald Trump and Governor Jeb Bush? Why don't we discuss at great length whether he meant immigration or was he taking a backhanded slap at Jeb Bush's brother George? Why don't we discuss how a police officer has to go into a church to find the dead body of a parishioner who has a brick in his hand who wants to hit the pastor of that church in Detroit and kill him for an affair? Why don't we talk about the $18 trillion debt that this nation has? At least the recorded debt, not the 120 that's unrecorded, just the 18. Why don't we talk about Trey Gowdy telling the RNC to shut up? We're trying to do an investigation. Why are we spending time talking about an 11-year-old girl from Bradenton, New Jersey, Ken? New Jersey, it's Jersey, Ken!
Like anybody would be. It's just, it's a very shocking situation, heartbreaking.
Did the great-grandmother talk about her grandchild ever? Did you ever share her?
She's got a lot of grandchildren, a lot of great-grandchildren. How are you doing today? How are you feeling? Just the normal, daily stuff to do, especially when you have elderly neighbors. Most people, if they're good-hearted, they check on them.
What has she said about what's happened to her grandchild, apparently?
Not a lot. She hasn't really said. She's older, so she not a lot of things have been said.
Anyone else in the home that's commented?
Just that they just can't understand. They don't understand.
Why do they say that? Why do they say they don't understand?
They don't understand how this could happen. They don't understand how they could be, why they would be brought in and involved in this.
Now that is the Bradenton Herald doing its best to cover a story. Maria Barger, the neighbor, speaking to them, the Bradenton Herald. Harold, it's my good friend Sean would say. Psychiatrist Sean. Harold. But ladies and gentlemen, not a funny issue right now. Not a funny. I try to find levity, but this is really pathetic. This is sad. This is tragic. This is more or less becoming a definition of our culture. A culture of fear and death, I might say. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to read it to you because I don't want you to hear it via YouTube selects. I want you to hear this for yourself. And we're coming to you live from the nation's capital. We'll go to a break at the quarter point. We're going to start practicing that, I assure you. Kishana Thomas, as they're reporting from Manatee, New Jersey, Manatee County, in fact. Kishana Thomas, the mother of the 11-year-old girl who has gone missing and is presumed dead, has been charged with aggravated child abuse for an incident last month involving her 12-year-old son. According to the Bradenton Police Department, now I am reading this from, of course, the Bradenton Herald. It doesn't get better. So let me just assure you that it doesn't get better from here in terms of what I have to read to you. As part of the investigation into that case, deputies with the Manatee County Sheriff's Office's Child Protective Investigations Unit, and you all know that I am not a big fan of CPI, but by golly, this is one of those moments where I am cheerleading. Went Friday to the family's apartment at the Village at Cortez, 4880 51st Street West, to remove Thomas's 5 children. It was the 10th time since 2003 that child protection officials have had contact with Thomas and her family, and Sheriff's Office spokesman Dave Bristow. Following the incident in September, we were asking the mom. Okay, now, you all know, and I pray to God that a right leader comes that may take up the mantle of the Open Heart Closed Case campaign, someone that can be respected from top down, someone that can maybe move in a direction where people will say, oh, that's the kind of guy I want. That's the kind of guy I want as a leader, because he cares. He's putting it all out. Maybe we can find somebody who wants to do the Relisha Rudd law, who wants to make it a mandatory penalty if parents don't report their children dead or missing in the first 24 hours. Maybe we need someone to take the helm there and make it work. Maybe the Open Heart Closed Case campaign can speak to this particular situation. Maybe. Or at least to the people of Bradenton, or at least to the county of Manatee. Maybe there's someone there that is so committed that they will not want to hear the next words I speak ever again. When we come back from the break, I want to talk to you about Janiyah Thomas and what happened to Janiyah Thomas thanks to her mother, the mother of 5 children. How a grandmother who has not seen her children now weeps with great grief, and how a city and a country should lower its flags and be quite ashamed of what we have produced in this nation. We have produced a culture of fear and death. And maybe we need some champions in the world. Some champions that are willing to step up and fight this great fight. We need some worthy people tonight. Whether it's Detroit, whether it's Chicago, maybe it's Washington, D.C., Dallas, Tampa, Los Angeles, Los Banos. Our children are dying. And this country is so blind and deaf. You're listening to the Exceptional Conservative Show live from the nation's capital. I'm your host, the exceptional one, Ken McClinton. We'll be back right after this break. And I'm going to encourage you to indulge yourself. Yes, indulge yourself with the finest of foods. Okay? Not only indulge, but inspire yourself with a restaurant in Washington, D.C. Well, on the outskirts of Washington, D.C., but certainly one of the best restaurants in all of the city, Infused Restaurant and Lounge.
Hi, my name is Christopher Arnold. I'm the executive chef of the Infused Restaurant, and today I'm walking you through some of the meals that we share So I'm going to make it a good we use French Italian sausage. Cook here and slice it up. Pizza crust is an in-house made. Pizza sauce is in-house made. So everything is fresh and delicious. This is our Thai curry chicken. The sauce is made with coconut milk and the Thai red curry. It is juicy chicken thighs with some mixed vegetables, served with jasmine rice and pita bread. So now, we're going to prepare our famous Blackened Tilapia noodles, our fish and grits on the menu. And I'm really complete. Let me tell you about our infused beef burgers. We keep the spice up just a little bit with our infused sauce. We start off with 80-20 USDA ground chuck ham patty burgers, nice apple pound of burgers, and we're going to grill it to perfection. After I flip the burgers, we add the sauce and let it cook on until it gets we're going to add a little bit of pepper jack cheese to this burger, spice it up a bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, inspire, indulge, but definitely infuse. Yes, Infused Restaurant. It's open for brunch Saturday or Sunday from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. They are located at 6339 Allentown Road, Temple Hills, Maryland, 20748. Telephone number 301-449-9000. You can go find them at www.infuse.com. infuse.com. And the food, the portions are tremendous. The quality of food is awesome. Derek Williams is a great owner. A marvelous chef back there. I'm telling you, what are you doing? Why are you even here right now listening to me? Should be over at Infuse listening to me. Welcome back to the Exceptional Conservative Show live from Nation Capital, Washington, D.C. I'm your host, the Exceptional One. Glad to have Mary, my bouncer, and in the chat roll at the exceptionalconservativeshow.com, where you can actually watch it. You can type into the chat roll And you can even scroll down a little bit and play b-ball. Urban b-ball. You know we people love b-ball. So you can play it while you're listening. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to play for you one of the worst things I've heard in a long time. Jania's story is a terrible one to hear. One that should certainly put shame to many people. And sooner or later, I'm going to be able to play. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, I want to play this clip. And it will set up for you exactly what I'm talking about tonight.
We're going to start this hour with a devastating development in the search for a missing Bradenton girl. Detectives believe the body found in a freezer is that of 11-year-old Janiah Thomas.
The mother is behind bars right now after refusing to answer any questions about what happened to her. Kelly's reporter Gary Flowers has been following the story joining us live from outside the home where the body was discovered. Gary, walk us through how long she had been missing until this point.
Well, Allison, documentary-wise, she had last been seen by Child Protective Services in August of last year, but some neighbors I spoke with yesterday told me they had seen her several months ago. Then family members tipped off authorities, which led them to this home where Janiah's grandmother and aunt lived. Now, authorities are saying that the 11-year-old girl was found inside the home, inside a freezer, and it's described as looking like the one where an investigator is shining a light on it. Now, authorities tell us Janiah's mother, along with an unknown black male, brought the freezer over to the home last Wednesday. But it was locked, and authorities believe no one checked it, and that the other family members who saw the freezer did not know what exactly was inside of it. That's until they saw the news and noticed Janiah was missing. The girl's cousin found her inside and dead. His description of what he saw was disturbing, and something he says he won't be able to forget.
Angry, disturbing, everything, whatever, discrepancy, we can take that because they never should do that to their child. Period.
Now, here's a mugshot of the mother, 31-year-old Keshana Thomas. She was arrested for contempt of court this past Friday after refusing to answer a judge's questions about where her daughter was located. But now that the body has been discovered, police are hoping that she opens up about what happened. Now, Thomas has 4 other kids, and Child Protective Services picked them up last week. That's when they noticed that Janiah was missing. Live in Bradenton, Gary Flowers, 10 News.
Ladies and gentlemen, I sat before council members of the District of Columbia who could not possibly believe that a mother would be so ferocious as to mistreat her child. We all know maybe the mothers get upset and they spank the kid a little too hard. Maybe they yell and scream at them. But certainly a mother would not do this. What would a mother not do? 2 days later, following the incident in September, we were asking the mom for 3 weeks where her other children were. And she said the 2-year-old and the 11-year-old were with relatives. Bristol said she had the 2-year-old the next day, but then said the 11-year-old was with relatives in New Jersey and was out of state. She kept leading us on, so that's why we took her in. A mother wouldn't dare kill her own. Not in the culture of fear and death, Ken. You see, a man would do this. A gang member would do this. A possessed father would do this. But certainly not a mother who's gone through 9 months to bear and to produce something that no one else could have done because that one to receive it. No, the baby wasn't perfect. I wish the baby had blue eyes and long hair that you could braid up and weave out, and you could let the child run and everything would be okay, and the child would not have to use a diaper. I would hope the child wouldn't be such an inconvenience to you. Such an inconvenience it is when a child is unable to hold their bowels. When a child is unable to hold their urine because it is an inherited flaw from the father. No, not the father that aided and abetted in this, but the father who died because of the same condition. What a flaw it is to be so imperfect. She's eating up your welfare money. All that welfare money is going to pay for diapers. I could be getting crabs or some steaks or getting my nails done and my hair done did it. Two days later on Sunday, people. On Sunday. I don't hear too many pastors in my chat roll either at Ustream or the Exceptional Conservative. I don't hear y'all. Because this is where you all are when it comes to this particular issue. You're absent and unaccounted for. Babies are dying. And where are you? We got a Bible study. A girl's body was found in a freezer at the home of Thomas's grandmother and great aunt. But authorities have not confirmed the body's identity. Judge Diana Moreland ordered a $75,000 bond or Kishana Thomas for the child abuse charge. It's amazing how she didn't have the umption, the gumption to deliver the child to the grandmother and the aunt, or the great-grandmother and the aunt, or the great-aunt and the grandmother, however way you wish to say it. Didn't have the umption and the gumption to do that. Okay? But ladies and gentlemen, when the baby's dead and stuck in a freezer, you can deliver the child. Of course, it's padlocked. I'm quite certain that grandmother and great aunt would have done a heck of a better job mothering the child than Kishana Thomas. But I can make that accusation because I'm here, she's there. I don't know her situation, I suppose. But would everyone's situation end with a death of a baby? 11-year-old child. The arrest report for Thomas says her son was caught shoplifting. Oh, wow. And where are my preachers at? Oh, I'm sorry. I interrupted you picking out another suit. You go ahead. Get the suit. And after you leave the shoe shop, come back and we'll talk, okay? Was caught shoplifting September 23rd from the Walmart Supercenter at 5315 Cortez Road West, where she works. Loss prevention turned him over to Thomas, who took him home and said she was going to whoop him, the report states. Thomas says she was holding him by the shirt and lost her grip, which caused him to run into the dresser and shatter the attached mirror. Whooping was a different definition when I was growing up. Just saying. It did not involve violent throws of a child across the room. Maybe it's necessary today. Maybe we're playing by new NFL rules or something. I love this. I love this. Preacher. I'm sorry. I interrupted. I'm sorry. You look very nice in that new pastoral robe. But Yeah, get it in purple, black, red, and white. That way you have one for every week. There you go. But come back when you're ready, and we'll sit down and we'll talk about Miss Thomas and Janiyah Thomas. You know, I'm sorry. Sorry to disturb you. Thomas's live-in boyfriend told her to settle down. And the boy was taken to his room, where he climbed out the window and went to the apartment complex's clubhouse, where he told someone his mother had punched and slapped him during the entire car ride home from Walmart, according to the report. The responding officer indicated on the original report that the boy had no marks or bruising on him, but he was removed by Child Protective Services due to history of the family. It's amazing how the JWs can walk the neighborhoods asking you to read crap that's not true about their religion. Wouldn't it be nice if we were able to walk the neighborhood to find out how our families were doing? How about that? There's a lot in me tonight, and I'm going to yield it. We'll be right back. Janiyah Thomas, dead at 11, found in the refrigerator. God bless America.
Hi, my name is Christopher Arnold. I'm the executive chef of the restaurant, and today I'm walking you through some of the meals that we prepare here. So we're making a pizza. We use French Italian sausage. Cook here and slice it up. Pizza work is an in-house made. Pizza sauce is in-house made. So everything is fresh. This is our Thai curry chicken. The sauce is made with coconut milk and the Thai red curry. It is juicy chicken thighs with some mixed vegetables, served with jasmine rice and pita bread. So now, we're going to prepare our famous blackened tilapia noodles, our fishing fish on the menu. And our meal will be complete. Let me tell you about our infused beef burgers. We kick the spice up just a little bit with our infused sauce. We start off with, you see, this side of the that part, you gotta do the side of it, but you can't do hand patty burgers, like that is something perfection. You know what that something is? I was watching O'Reilly's night. We had the sauce, let it cook on it. We're going to add a little bit of pepper jack cheese to this burger.
All that could be yours. Yes, that could have been your burger. And trust me, as big a man as I am, I loves me some eating, and the infused burgers are one of a kind. Inspire, indulge, infuse. Definitely infuse. In fact, go right now to www.infuseinfuse.com. Just go to their website and say thank you for making such good food. Infuseinfuse.com. Ladies and gentlemen, Saturday and Sunday from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. you get the creme de la creme. Breakfast sandwiches, bowls of grits, turkey sausage, Mickey Mouse pancakes for the babies, dollar pancakes for the brother. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to be cheated when you want to have breakfast. You won't be at Infuse. Again, 6339 Allentown Road, Temple Hills, Maryland. 20748. Call them 301-449-9000. They also cater coming up on the Christmas season. You might want to do that.
Stand by for action.
Hey, Flamer, I am the Unpleasant Blind Guy. I want to thank everyone who has stuck with me throughout the Wayback series. To myself and the Underground Professor, EGP Radio.
Oh my God, is this? Oh, this is the Unpleasant Blind Guy doing a montage. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not an error. It is not a mistake. It is merely fate. It is the great grace of God that you have the opportunity to eat at the inspiring, the indulgence of Infused Restaurant. Listen, they're open Saturdays and Sundays from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., meaning that they have a feast du jour for the buffet and as well for the regular orders that you would have. Oh man, I'm telling you, a la carte side dishes. I am telling you, the best brunch in Washington. Hands down. Put your hands down. It is the best brunch. Listen, we can go there at 6339 Allentown Road, Temple Hills, Maryland. 20748 is the zip code. Their telephone number is 301-449-9000. 301-449-9000. And they would love to cater your next event. Listen, you got one of DC's premier chefs. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if I think I have messed up. It is a montage done by the Unpleasant Blind Guy. He's mixing the Underground Professor, Dr. Michael Jones, with moi, the Underground, the exceptional one, Ken McClinton. And Dave Milner is just an awesome, awesome commentator. Or at least I may have mixed up one or two of them. But I will definitely get back to Dave Milner and make certain that the stuff is played right. I am so sorry. What a montage. Ladies and gentlemen, want to return to our conversation regarding Janiyah Thomas. On Sunday night, family members called to tell police that Janiyah Thomas's body might be located in a freezer at the girl's great-aunt and great-grandmother's house in the 5000 block of 21st Way East. A man and Kishana Thomas moved the freezer into the home on Wednesday, according to Racky. And that's Lieutenant Racky from the Bradenton Police, Lieutenant James Racky. Racky said police know who the man is and are currently looking for him, though they are unsure of his relationship with Kishana Thomas. We should be able to talk to him today, Racky said. Police believe the body is Janiyah Thomas, but Racky said they are still waiting on the medical examiner's office for confirmation. The medical examiner's office will also be able to speak to how long the body has been deceased. Janiyah Thomas has been missing since August 2014. Relisha Rudd in Washington, D.C. was missing for almost a month before anyone reported that she was missing. Oh, I'm sorry, Pat. You're busy eating your fine dining. I understand. You were influenced by Infuse. Yeah. I understand. Go ahead. Eat your lamb. I understand. Nobody told us until Friday night, Racky said. Child missing since August 2014, over a year. Relisha Rudd had been missing for just 4 weeks. We have not yet found Relisha Rudd. Her mother pulled her out of school because of her medical condition and said she was homeschooling her in 2013. Janiyah had a condition that affected her digestion and bowel movements and could not always tell when she had to go to the bathroom, Racky explained. The medical condition killed Janiyah's father and frustrated Kishana Thomas. Now, I know you wouldn't want her in your church because, that new carpet that you just bought for your office, the new choir robes, you wouldn't want her to sing with the children's choir because, Natalie Harrell, spokeswoman for the Florida Department of Children and Families, said the 4 other children ages 15, 12, 9, and 2 are in the department's custody now. She said the sheriff's office had an open investigation of Thomas. The Department of Children and Families will immediately deploy a critical incident rapid response team to investigate. The agency said in a news release Monday afternoon, the multidisciplinary review team will work with the MCSO's Child Protective Services Investigations Division to review all the details and prior involvement with this family. The CIRRT report will be made public upon completion and available on DCF's website. Bristow said officials were working to redact sensitive information from reports on Thomas and her children before releasing them publicly. Hopefully it would be not as redacted as the Judicial Watch's recovery of documents for Hillary Clinton that she emailed. They should have redacted her name. Maybe that would have covered some stuff up. The girl was last seen in school 2013. May 2013, in fact. So between May 2013 and today, nobody virtually seen her. I'm not the one for this. I don't know how I go to bed at night thinking, and in fact, to be honest with my listening public, I really get now more than about 2 hours of sleep at night. To feel that there's something you can do and yet nothing you can do is the most hopeless feeling. these children suffer at the hands of people who are brazenly bitter, recordingly malicious, and sadistically intentional. An 11-year-old girl. What did she have to grow up in? What was the experience for this 11-year-old? I just want to. What was it like for this 11-year-old girl? Maybe if we had jumped in just a little earlier. 20/20 vision is always the best spectacle to use when criticizing. But tonight, I'm not critiquing the agencies. Well, yeah, I am kind of, sort of. As much as there is a need for a cultural change in America. A cultural change that says that when a child is missing, we should care. Isn't it amazing how people who run for office tell you that they care? And yet, these children are gone. Just like that. Moment's notice. Oh, but you got to... case like this, you want to cover yourself. It's time for covering. Not revealing, but covering. We got to cover. We got to cover. In August 2013, the district was informed that Janiah would be homeschooled. Barbara said, homeschool students and families must submit annual evaluations to the school district to maintain homeschool status, Barbara said. When the district did not receive an evaluation in the year, a letter was sent out to the parent. Here is an idea that I floated many years ago, and I hope someone picks up on it. Maybe quarterly, homeschool parents should have to check in with the local school in their district. Could be a charter school, could be a public school, but they have to check in and they have to test. And if they're not doing well, maybe other options. And trust me, I'm a big homeschooler. Hey, I want you to homeschool your kids, to be honest. But I want to make sure that we count all the kids and that they're all there. Barbara said Thomas's 3 school-age children are enrolled in the district. Thomas was convicted of prostitution in 2003 and has previously petitioned the state in both 2003 and 2004 for an injunction against the same man for protection from domestic violence. Meaning that she got away from him and then went back to him and then got away from him again. Both of those cases were dismissed for failure to show basis. The most recent one in 2006, details of those cases are confidential. Lori Trainer, the Vice President of Public Relations for the Village and Cortez apartment complex, said Thomas has lived there since August 2013 and they've never had any complaints about her. She's been a peaceful resident up until now. Thomas was a cashier at the Walmart on Cortez Road since May 2014. According to Brian Nick, given the circumstances, we have suspended her pending the results of the investigation. Obeda Toro, a neighbor of Thomas, said she has known the family for years and that it hurt her heart to hear the story. Toro said she remembered seeing other children of Thomas recently, but not Janiah. I honestly can't remember the last time I saw her. I want you to hear those words. Maybe I'm not the one to do this. Maybe I'm not the one. But I hope someone who's more effectual more passionate, more influential, more wealthy can get this movement going. I want you to hear the most truthful, the most dead, cold, silent, killing words, chilling you to the very bone. I honestly can't remember the last time I saw her. If our children mean that much to us, should we not know where they are? When I was growing up, Channel 5 used to play this little PSA at 10 o'clock, right before the 10 o'clock news came on. And they would ask, it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? They don't play that anymore. Why? Well, maybe it just doesn't fit the schedule. Maybe they don't have the deep enough voice to do it anymore or something. Maybe it should be a deep voice. Do you know where your children are? Maybe it should be something like that. Maybe you need a sexy voice. Do you know where your children? It's something. Maybe there needs to be some alteration. But Channel 5 back then cared enough to ask a question that we don't ask today. Do you know where your children are? The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children assists law enforcement, families, the professionals who serve them with cases of missing and exploited children. NCMEC serves as the national clearinghouse for information about missing and exploited children. Unfortunately, there is no reliable way to determine how many total children are actually missing in the U.S. I want to read that to you once more. And then I want to say to you what it used to say at 10 o'clock in Washington, D.C. Do you know where your children are? NCMEC says there is no reliable way to determine how many total children are actually missing in the U.S., as many children are never reported missing. As many children are never reported missing. How can you find them if no one ever gives you the start to look for them? Why won't they pass a law in your state, in your city, in your village, in your town, in your borough, that a child, if missing, needs to be reported? Do you know in St. Louis, and I'm just going to give a shout out to Alderman Jeffrey Boyd. This might be something you want to look into. When you go to the St. Louis missing persons page, there are no pictures. We learned a long time ago that if you pour milk and look on the side of the carton, there is a missing child. You can see the picture. But in St. Louis, you can't see squat. How do you know what the child looks like? What are you looking for? It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? You probably don't, because they're never reported missing. Sarah Stillman says, She's a big-time investigator for cold cases. It makes it very clear that in the first 3 hours a child is missing, 86% of them are dead. According to the FBI, in 2014, there were 466,949 National Crime Information Center entries for missing children. I want to repeat that number to you because if we round it up, it will blow your mind. 500,000 children are missing in this country. I honestly had never seen her. Honestly, I hadn't seen her for a long time. My neighbors asked where my children were. My neighbors, they were grown and in college, and my neighbors still ask me, how are they doing? Where are they? Are they okay? Can we do anything for them? It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? In 2013, the total number of missing children entries was 462,566. Still almost 500,000 children are missing. During the last 31 years, NCMEC, their hotline, 1-800-THE-LOST, that's 1-800-843-5678, has received more than 4 million calls. They've circulated billions of photos of missing children, assisted law enforcement in the recovery of more than 211,000 missing children. I'm going to tell you how excited I was when we found a child just recently, Danetta Long, after 3 years of being in sex trafficking. And that's just since 90 days since we started the Open Heart Closed Case campaign. But I'm quite sure there's someone out there ladies and gentlemen, it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? It is a question that each and every one of us needs to ask. When we come back from the break, I'll be talking with my very good friend, Lonnie Poindexter, about some of the issues of today. But I'm going to tell you right now, if your child is near you, if your grandchild is near you, in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you about 4 minutes of some good music. Pick up the phone and call your child, your grandchild, or at least their mother and father. Find out how they're doing. I would never have to want to ask. And your response is, I don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you back to the Exceptional Conservative Show live from the nation's capital, where we're not ashamed of the good news of conservatism. For it is the power of liberation, first and foremost, to Republicans and then the Democrats.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. 202802440.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. All right, we attempted to contact Lonnie Poindexter. We'll try again in just a little bit. We've been talking about Janiyah Thomas. And Janiyah Thomas, I tell you, that story in itself takes you aback some. That individuals could be so cruel, so heartless, so sadistic, so aloof, so detached from reality. Children are dying, and we're missing them. It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way at all. Sorry, Dick. Hey, I apologize. One of the flukes of nature. I want to give you some surprising facts about child sex trafficking. Found this on Alternet.com. It was produced November 2nd, 2013. Number one of ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to apologize, Alani, if you get any wild cards, man. Some people have figured some stuff out. Boys make up 50% of the sex traffic victims in the U.S. Boys make up 50% of the sex traffic victims in the U.S. Hey, I can't edit it. It's done. Sorry. In addition to that, most children who are sex trafficked don't have a traditional pimp. It goes on to say that while most of us are familiar with the conventional pimp portrayed in the media who preys upon and kidnaps children off the streets, in reality this is not typically how children enter the life of prostitution. In fact, the John Jay study revealed that most children are not pimped in the traditional sense, but instead recruited by familiar procurers or friends known to them who do not manage their work, but rather facilitate them by offering shelter or referring them to buyers in exchange for clients or a share of their earnings. Licensed independent clinical social worker Stephen Procopia explained these exchanges to Alternet. He said, children can have pimps, but generally as the boy or girl ages out into his or her late 20s, he or she may rent an apartment with several others in the life, and in exchange for those younger kids having shelter and a room to sleep, they work for the older boy or girl. Another scenario is the fee-for-service drive-by pimp. A guy will drive his car, ask a child if he wants to make some money for the evening, pimp her or him out, and then at the end of the night, the child may never see that person again. In other situations, families may pimp out their kids to support their drug addiction. Families may pimp out their kids to support their drug addiction. Dave says there are also the recruiters who use alcohol, drugs, and gifts to lure them in. That's right. Right indeed. Number 3. Many youth show a surprising amount of agency and control over their work. Perhaps the most difficult to reconcile in the minds of human rights activists intent on rescuing underage sex workers is the fact that many of these kids don't believe they need saving and consciously make the decision to work in the sex trade. Can you believe that? Anthony Marcus, Associate Professor of Anthropology at John Jay College and part of the ground level research team for the New York and a subsequent Atlanta study, found that many youth who engage in commercial sex do not view themselves as sufferers, but rather perceive their work as a curious and fascinating lifestyle. By definition, a sex trafficking victim is a person suffering extreme distress in a relationship that is exploitative. However, one of the surprising things we found about the street sex market is that young women have a surprising amount of agency. We encountered so many young women who had expired their pimps who were brutal or bullying them. Wow. It sounds like it's an industry. It is an industry created by our culture of fear and death. For most exploited children, their trafficking situation is not the greatest trauma they've endured. The majority has a history of sexual abuse and neglect. Dave says when they get used to it, they say they make huge money all the time and resent people bothering them about it. Some want to make it one, Ken. Yeah, you're right. While most youth entered the life of prostitution between the ages of 11 and 14, their sexual exploitative situation began usually between the ages of 6 and 10. I want to give those numbers to you. 6 and 10. Between 6 and 10. That means that 6, that 7, that 8, that 9, that 10-year-old. and documented as a child abuse case. Janiyah Thomas was involved in child abuse. And we never asked a question when someone says, I don't remember seeing that child in a long time. Tina Front, sex trafficking survivor and founder of anti-trafficking nonprofit Courtney's House, made that comment regarding the fact that they start so young. And there was a Muslim who was arrested in, I believe, St. Paul, Minneapolis, because he attempted to rape an 8-year-old girl. What's more, between 70 to 90% of commercially sexually exploited children in the United States have been sexually abused prior to entering the life and are runaways with a history of complex trauma that usually begins with a dysfunctional or neglectful family. Do you all understand why why all of us need to work on family? We have to. Without any fear, without any concern, without any doubt, we have to work on family. That's the role of us as ministers, to welcome them. They were first apart from a family. Now they have to become a part of the family. We are supposed to bring the isolated into family, but not a dysfunctional family. These kids enter the system for various types of reasons, but the underlying reasons are that they come from homes where they are subject to multiple traumas in their childhood: sexual abuse, substance abuse, or domestic violence. In other scenarios, the youth is asked to leave because of gender identification. Do you see how others have experimented with our children in the classroom, in the pulpits, in the parks, in the businesses, in the seats of government? And yet our children, our inheritance, our heritage, are wounded and transgressed upon, treated as if they're nothing more than floor mats to walk upon. Not that they are the tiny hands that will eventually someday move the cradle of a nation. But their body happens to be an open orifice for anyone to play in. You've heard stories of how little girls have been lent to a mother's boyfriend in order to keep the boyfriend a part of her life. The "I don't see anything." Moreover, 30% of children who are trafficked reported sexual abuse by someone in their family, and 14% disclosed sexual abuse by both someone within and outside of their family, a Williams and Pryor 2009 study revealed. Number 5. Trafficked children are treated as criminals despite federal law classifying anyone under 18 years of age a victim. Despite statutory rape laws in every state explicitly stating that children under 18 cannot legally consent to having sex, in conformity with the Federal Victims of Trafficking and Violence Protection Act of 2000, most states still allow minors to be arrested and charged with prostitution crimes. Well, they are prostituting, so it is a crime. But here's the thing. Legally, children cannot consent to having sex. Legally, children cannot consent to having sex. Legally, children cannot consent to having sex. So why does your public school want to give your child a condom? Why does your government want to give your children condoms? Kate Magolescu, attorney at Legal Aid Society who has represented hundreds of indigent clients under age 21 facing criminal prosecution for prostitution, outlined her frustration with the system at a recent seminar. Our criminal justice is deeply flawed. There is a fundamental perversiveness about it because you have to be arrested and charged for prostitution first, even if you are under 18. It has always been the state versus the trafficking victim, who is considered a defendant, and that just doesn't go away. 16 and 17-year-olds are prosecuted as adults, even though technically the law regards them as victims. Moreover, the U.S. Justice Department found that law enforcement officers are more likely to arrest underage boys engaged in commercial sex rather than refer them to social service providers as they do with girls. I don't see Black Lives Matter marching on this one. That's your issue right there. And it's amazing how you can have abortions from teenage girls without it being rape. When did teenage girls have consensual sex according to the law? Spent this afternoon talking with a young woman who is a diligent liberal, conversing with a assured conservative. And most of her afternoon, her mouth was agape. She could not believe the things that I told her about these particular issues. She could not believe unsolved murders have piled up over 200 in District of Columbia. Over 200 in the District of Columbia, and there are only 8 detectives. Couldn't believe that. Just, no way! The government cares that the closure rate for homicides in Baltimore has fallen from 60% last year to 30% this year. And that there are 279 killings, homicides, in Baltimore as of October 17th. In Bradenton, a little girl is found in a refrigerator. Oh no! No! There are those, and this was quite a paradox to consider. There are those, and you're right, Dave, out of the chat roll at theexceptionalconservativeshow.com. Muhammad married Aisha at 6 and consummated the marriage at 9. And there are lots of Mohammedans that still practice that today. In fact, if we had Sharia law here, baby beware. According to the John Jay study, most trafficked children predominantly serve white males between 25 and 55 years old. Women make up buyers and traffickers as well, they want you to know. Most trafficked children predominantly serve white males between 25 and 55 years old, with a preference for older, wealthy white males. However, 40% of boys and 11% of the girls surveyed said that they had served a female client, with 13% of the boys exclusively serving female clients. Moreover, in family-controlled trafficking situations, the trafficker can often be a child's mother or grandmother who tells the youth, "We all make money together. We're in this household and you have to contribute." Yes, 6-year-old, we bought you some high heels at the Payless. Now get your little butt out there and make some money for the fam. Have you ever noticed how the clothes for babies looks as dauntingly sexy as the stuff that maybe an actress would wear? An adult actress? We're beginning to teach our children that not only that sex sells, but you happen to be the appetite of the day. You happen to be the main course that people seek. You're just a tool in the box. And when you have been used up, we would throw it away and find another new tool. Cameron Conway and human trafficking, in an article called Human Trafficking, the Other 20%, said, "I've heard from several high-ranking women and anti-trafficking organizations that the sex traffickers, the actual criminals in the crime, are about 65% men." So what does that mean? 35% of women participate in this. I want you to know that there is a page on the internet that people go to for the child hookup. Backpage.com. If you see that in your history, on your computer at home, because I ain't touching it. It ain't going to be on my computers. I'm just telling you what the news is saying. And I wouldn't click on it. I don't even have my clicker near it. I don't even want it on the page, actually. I'll move it up to the top. Backpage.com is a major enabler of online child trafficking through its adult section advertisements. Last year, U.S. senators called for Backpage.com to ease facilitation of sex trafficking, which they argue prioritize the rights of pimps and not kids. Nonetheless, the website continues to cop flack due to the incessant number of cases popping up whereby pimps use the site to arrange sex encounters with your babies, who end up in refrigerators or freezers, locked up, padlocked. Who would know? She's just 11. I haven't seen her in a long time. Last year, 3 teens sued the website alleging that the site allowed them to be forced into prostitution. Tina Front, who works alongside FBI investigators in locating online predators, says such websites are a feeding ground for traffickers. Ladies and gentlemen, do I have to make this perfectly clear for you? Maybe I do have to make this perfectly clear for you. And I just wish my good friend Lonnie Poindexter were here to coincide. I'll be on the air with him hopefully on Friday. But ladies and gentlemen, I just want to make it very clear to you. Your babies are sheep. And there are wolves out there, even on the internet. But you got your kids, a 6-year-old with a cell phone here, with and they are talking to people. They're GPSing each other and tapping each other and all kinds of things. Phone! And you see them in church, and they're talking to one another. And who are you talking to? Are you leading them to Jesus? No. Planning my afternoon. 51-year-old woman stopped in front of a car because she noticed that there was a teen girl in the car with a very old man. Not really, well, old, but you know, you get the point. He's much older than the child, teenager. And so she parked her car in front of the other car that he was driving and got out and asked. Now this is love. This is love. Got out and asked, "Who is he? Is he your father?" She said, "No, he is a friend." She said to her, "He's not your friend. Get out of the car." If it were not for that pesky little 51-year-old woman who asked the question, "Do you know where your children are?" who cared enough to get out of her car, park in front of the other car so he couldn't get out, couldn't get away, and call police so he might be arrested, that pedophile would have gotten away with a teenage girl. Do you understand, according to the North Carolina Gang Investigative Association, that literally a gang member makes $160,000 off of one girl that they kidnap? Can you imagine what her life would have been like had he not been blockaded? And we're always worried about what they gonna say about me. I don't want to get involved. Retaliation. Somebody might get hurt, and it might be me, and I don't want to get hurt. Number 8. Most kids engaged in sex trafficking don't consider themselves victims. According to the Polaris Project, an organization against human trafficking, children who are sex trafficked generally do not self-identify as victims of a crime and thus do not immediately seek help due to a number of factors such as a lack of trust, self-blame, and the habitual instructions by the trafficker, coaxing the child on how to behave around law enforcement. In addition, traffickers chronically condition the child to believe that he or she is engaging in sex work out of true love to pay off a debt. You would do this if you love me. If you love me, just do what I say do. Moreover, that little 8-year-old child that's sitting up too late now who wants to stay awake right now to watch Adult Swim, this might be your moment to save his or her life. Many children who enter the life at an early age are brainwashed by their trafficker to believe that this is the only job they are cut out to do. As Sheila White, Survivor Leadership Coordinator at Girls Education and Mentoring Services, writes, I too was in a place where I thought being in the life was all I was ever capable of doing. In fact, I never saw myself as a victim of anything, and I believe that I would always be defined by my past. How many of us walk defined by our past? Still! Can't see tomorrow because I'm focused on yesterday. That child wants to escape yesterday who's standing on the street with that 55-year-old man gazing across, wondering, what can I do to get that little boy in my car? Yes! They are out there. The wolves are out there, and they're coming for your sheep, and some of them are living in your home. She writes, we are never a victim, even on the street. If we label kids that we take away that notion that we had to survive on the street. We saw rapes, murders, things people never will ever be able to talk about, and we survived and we continued on. We're survivors, and it's a victim mindset we must transition. Wow. When I think of how there are college professors at Georgetown University who run around and say that they are victims. They earn $250,000 a year as professors and write books to make millions of dollars, and because of the color of their skin, they're victims. And the true victims can't even cry out because they don't know that they can. Father who didn't love them, maybe even wasn't there. A mother who was tired of working 2 jobs, taking care of 5 kids. She didn't listen to her mama, who told her not to go out with that man and have all them babies. So now she got to take care of them. Tired of being on welfare. Tired of being dependent on child support that never comes in. You ask for $300 and you only get $1. Tired of having more month than money. Can't see the other end, because if you could, they could meet. So your life doesn't have but one end. Now this boy, after all this, wants me to go to a PTA meeting. I'm tired. Say it with me. I'm tired. I'm just tired. I've seen kids get smacked. It's because their parents didn't know how to parent. They knew how to bully, but they didn't know how to parent. Everything doesn't deserve a smack. Furthermore, the tendency for organizations and anti-trafficking groups to inflate trafficking statistics and focus disproportionate attention on pimped girls has meant that young boys, transgender youth, and those children of any gender who aren't enslaved by the traditional pimp are subject to labor trafficking miss out. Little Day. You can imagine him being a football player for Auburn, maybe LSU, maybe Michigan or Michigan State, maybe Arizona, maybe Utah. Oh, he's going to grow up to be a fine young man. And then you don't see him for a while. And then when he comes back home, he doesn't walk the way he used to walk. His pants sag down a little further than they need. And hope seems to be 1,000 miles away. He has a couple of tats, smoking a cigarette, standing on his porch, always looking like he's bothered by being home and should be at war on the streets with his fellow buddies pimping, or at least serving in the sex industry. Doesn't want anything that you have to offer if it won't get him back to what he's used to knowing. Ronald Weitzer, professor of sociology at George Washington University, and author of Sex Trafficking and the Sex Industry, The Need for Evidence-Based Theory and Legislation, explains this motif. NGOs have figured out that they can appeal to the public, donors and funders, if they emphasize sex trafficking of girls, which has a very clear purpose in attracting government funding, public and media attention. If resources are being misappropriated to less frequent types of trafficking, then there's a danger that others who are victimized, like hidden populations, are being ignored. Moreover, if labor trafficking is much more prevalent in the United States than sex trafficking, as the International Labor Organization says it is, then it suggests we should alter the balance toward labor trafficking. Ladies and gentlemen, there are those who even want to make your suffering an industry. When we come back, I want to talk about movement. I want to talk with you about what makes a movement and why movements need to change in order for us to overcome the deficiencies, the flaws, and even the burdens of a culture of fear and death. I want to welcome you back to the most influential urban conservative talk show in the world, the Exceptional Conservative Show, live from the nation's capital, where we are certainly not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation, first the Republican and then the Democrat. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a call. Kevin Powell says American manhood is in deep crisis. Kevin Powell is the author of the new book, The Education of Kevin Powell, A Boy's Journey into Manhood. Yes, Kevin Powell says that, by golly, we need a men's movement. Yes, we do. We need a men's movement. Sit back, ladies. You need to hear. We need to step forward. Apparently, Kevin Powell writes, and this is on CNN. CNN people, so CNN.com, Kevin Powell. About a year ago, I began a quiet one-year residency at a prestigious American university. Invited because there were endless allegations by female students about rape and other forms of sexual assault by fraternity members and male athletes on campus. School administrators were red-faced and eager for help outside. My task: work with young men on campus and get them to rethink what manhood means. Be careful when there's a rethinking. In a way that would lead, hopefully, over time to their viewing women and girls as their equals. If we were lucky, a few of these male students would become vocal allies in the work to end gender violence. Particularly since the vast majority of cases involve men and boys attacking women and girls in some way in the U.S. and on our planet. See, amazingly, it's the men. It's always the men. In my initial interactions, I spent a full week meeting with every fraternity on campus and captains of various sports teams, including the nationally ranked football team. I knew the guys were not comfortable with these mandatory gatherings, so I started each with a simple question: what is a man? What is a man? Signs of relief and phrases such as leader, protector, caretaker, responsible, head of the house fell from their mouths. Each session I told them that they had just described my single mother and most women I've encountered in my life. These young men would grow quiet. Be careful. The rethinking. Be careful. The rethinking. I'm going to say something that's very controversial here. And I will probably be reamed for it. They'll probably be marching in front of the house tomorrow morning. But women were not created to be leaders and head of household. And I'm talking about in the household, people. God wanted the husband, father, to be the head of the household and to adore his wife so much that he would put her first, except for God, before all others. That he would be a protector of the children, a caretaker in need, responsible for the well-being of those in the gate. If you ever study the gate, that means the culture, the economy, the education, the government, the family, the neighborhood, the faith. I know what he's trying to say. But let's get to what he says. I then asked them to name at least 10 women in American history. The usual is Rosa Parks, Betsy Ross, Hillary Clinton, Helen Keller, and Florence Nightingale. And they would inevitably stall, pressed to tell me something about each of these women. Only a handful could ever answer the question. When you don't know something about a group of people, any people different from you, it becomes very easy not to honor them as your equals. Really? Really? Be careful the rethinking, people. Easy not to love them. Easy not to see their lives as valuable as yours. And easy to directly and indirectly participate in hurting that group with your language, with your deeds, with your ignorance and reckless disregard for their humanity. Be careful the rethinking. or as we would call it, the rebranding. Be careful, the rebrandings, people. Because all it takes is for a liberally educated wonk to step onto the shores of your university, and soon your men shall be wearing dresses and your women shall be wearing overalls, I guess. I don't know. Whatever the men think there. Hey, Rick. He says, this is why when I think about manhood in our 21st century context, I think insanity of mayhem, confusion, violence. These things have come in the form of one mass shooter after another, murdering people at work, on military base. See, only men do this. Murdering people at work. Only men do this. On military bases. Only men do this. On college campuses. Only men do this. In grade schools, only men do this. These things have come in the form of misogynistic comments from men as different in pedigree as billionaire presidential candidate Donald Trump and Grammy award-winning rapper T.I. These things have come in the form of my travel as a speaker and activist. Be careful the rebranding through rethinking. It is clear to me that manhood in this nation is in deep crisis as our growth stunted at epidemic proportions. Meanwhile, few are talking about or doing anything remotely close to addressing the issue. He goes on to say, I got help in the form of years of therapy. Be careful the rebranding, people. Be careful. My ever-evolving spiritual faith. Be careful because there's no evolution in faith. A circle of women and men who mentored me. Be careful when the women come first. To understand the damaging effects of manhood rooted in the characteristics I explained above. Some think that being physical toward a woman or girl is the only form of violence. I'm going to ask my producer to go get my... No, I'm not going to ask her to do that. Don't. I'm not going to ask her to go get my cocoa mug, fill it up so I can sit here and just scoop in the drink while I talk with you. Oh. Ladies and gentlemen, be careful, because there are children and there are people out to get your children. He says, finally, I have many men say to me that they respect women. Respect is not enough at this stage. Respect is not enough at this. Respect was good enough for Christ, but it's not good enough for women. Be careful the rethinking and the rebranding. Even if you are not the kind of man who would ever call a woman the B word or make disrespectful or derogatory declarations about what women and girls can and cannot do or should and should not do. Even if you would never punch, kick, bite, spit on, or fight a woman, or rape a woman, stab or shoot and murder a woman, you have men and boys in your family, in your community, in your fraternity, or political group, or spiritual institution, or in the workplace, or places of play who do or have done these things, and when you say nothing at all, you become just as guilty. That I would agree with. But ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to change what a man is for him to be a man. Part of being a man is firstly being reverent and responsible to God. Secondly, honoring the father and mother in his life. And when he comes of marriage and is released to his wife, honoring her as Christ honored the church. And not allowing the children to come before he and his wife. Respect and reverence is a man thinking it and being it. A movement, people. Many people want a movement. but they want to rebrand what God has already given us. In fact, Ryan Shaw writes in The 5 Characteristics of Movements, he writes, Clinton defines a movement as a groundswell of people committed to a person or ideals and characterized by the following important commitments. And so I have to ask you all to do me this great favor. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who know that I support the Open Heart Closed Case campaign, if you haven't been a supporter of it, I suggest that you go to Facebook, the Open Heart Closed Case campaign, and like the page. But I need 5 things from you. I need your commitment to personal involvement. Yeah, I need you. You may not need me, but I need you. Our children, in this culture of fear and death, seemingly have no place to turn. At home, endangered, and away, endangered. We have to change the culture, people. So I'm asking for 1, a commitment to personal involvement. For you to be personally involved in the Open Heart Closed Case campaign. Hey, maybe, listen, I'm not asking you to run your chapter in your city. I'm not asking for the... But maybe tell a friend or 2 about the site and encourage them to like the page. Maybe show up for the events that we have scheduled for November the 6th and November the 7th. If you happen to be in the Baltimore or Washington, D.C. area. Maybe encourage your pastor or your council member to check out the site and to actually be involved. The second thing I need from you is your commitment to persuade others to join. Join the fight. When you look at that picture of your grandchild or your child tonight, and you picked up the phone and you called to find out just how they are, that was that moment where you can persuade others to join you in caring for the children. Number 3, I need people who are as committed to our beliefs and ideals to eradicate unsolved homicides, to eradicate missing persons, to eradicate sex trafficking and exploitation of children. I need you to believe that we can do it. You see, Bernie Sanders wants you to believe that if we take everyone's money, we can solve everyone's needs. And yet he has a groundswell of people who want to support him and follow him. Is this not a just cause to protect and to love our children? No, I didn't mean that. Thank you. My producer, the lovely Mrs. Biggs, brought me a container that I can scoop like the little boy on the Obama commercial there. You know? I need people who are committed to these cell opportunities in Los Banos and St. Louis and Baltimore and others as they develop. And finally, a commitment to endure opposition and misunderstanding. That's where I want to end tonight's show. The short commentary on that particular subject. People ask me, how are you doing, Ken? How are you doing since you lost your daughter? Are you okay? And my response is always, I'm fine. The Lord has been with us throughout it all. I am no more special than anyone else who has lost their child. But we have been made special because of the sordid nature in which we've lost our children. Many people expect individuals to go wacky, to go crazy, to not show up for work for 3 years, have to give up everything and fall apart. And I must tell you that it probably is a most uneasy, discomforting thing to walk in the presence of a man who is well with the Lord, with things in his life. You see, it is far better that you hug me into tears. Maybe you don't go to the right church. Maybe if you went to this church, you will fall out on the floor, and then we could all just throw a blanket over you, and then, you know, you would have grieved, and then we can all go on. We can exhaust. We can finally breathe. I don't want you to breathe. As selfish as that can be, I don't want you to breathe. Because when we breathe, when we exhale, we walk away. And now I don't want you to hover around me. Anyone who knows me, and my wife knows me very well, anyone who knows me, I don't need people around me too much. I love hanging out. I love having friends. I love talking, but I don't need that too much. But what I do need are people right now who are going to support our effort. No, I'm not looking for your money. I'm just looking for your personal involvement, your ability to persuade, your commitment to our beliefs and ideals, your willingness to participate in your city, and to endure opposition and misunderstanding. During a radio program which I did in my office at work, I've been allowed to do that. And I thank God for my employers for allowing me to do that. I slammed my fist on the desk and I got loud. And people believed I was going postal because they want that. They expect that. It is part of the grieving process that you go in and you blow away people. That's the culture of fear and death. I don't live in that. I live in a culture of faith and life. Our American life has to change. Our culture has to change. And while I might become irate and passionate, it may be alarming in terms of my resident nature, I will resoundingly fight every single day for a culture of faith and life. It is something that we must end, that culture of fear and death. I hope that you join me. I hope that you bear up the fight with me. But I want to let you know something. I'm all right. The Lord has been with me always, even to the end. A friend of mine once told me it is far better to live bravely than to die cowardly. I'm committed to doing that. Now remember always, God blessed America. Now America, bless God. We'll be back tomorrow night with more of the best. The Exceptional Conservative Show ends right now.